Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video we're going to be making cinnamon rolls. I hope you guys have been enjoying all the daily uploads and I'm going to try to keep that up for as long as I can. So to start off, take 1/4 of a cup of milk and put it in a small bowl. Then take a half cup of water and add it to the milk in this bowl. Add 1 teaspoon of sugar into the milk and water. Now sprinkle 1 packet of active dry yeast all over the milk, water, and sugar. Using a whisk, give that a little stir and then set it to the side so that it can bloom. If bubbles don't start to form within 5 to 10 minutes, that means that the yeast is dead and you should throw it away and start out with a new batch. In a larger bowl, add 2 3/4 of a cup of all-purpose flour. Add 1 teaspoon of salt to the flour. Give this a little whisk and then set it to the side. Go back to your yeast and check on it to make sure that the yeast has bubbled up at the top. If it has been activated, you will see foam at the top. Add 2 tablespoons of melted butter to the yeast mixture. Now add 1/4 of a cup of granulated white sugar. Mix this all up using a whisk. Once it has been well incorporated, add 1 egg and beat that in as well. We are going to be adding our dry ingredients into the wet mixture, so you might want to put your wet mixture into a bigger bowl. Slowly incorporate the flour and salt into the wet mixture, about a half a cup at a time. Keep adding it until there is little to none flour left. I left the last bit of flour in my bowl so that I could use it when I used my hands to knead. At this point, the dough is way too hard to be mixing with a spatula, so you should probably start using your hands. Make sure they're washed and clean and just incorporate and mix the dough. I needed another surface to knead the dough, so I put a little bit of flour on a wooden board and I just put the dough on there and I started kneading on there. To knead this dough, you're probably going to need to put a little bit of flour in your hands so that the dough doesn't stick, and also flour the top of the dough again so that it doesn't stick to the board. To knead any type of dough, you're going to want to take the front part of the dough and fold it over to the center, so keep on folding it over to the center from each side and every corner so that the dough is stretched out and it is maximized. If it starts to stick like this, like it is on me, you should probably add more flour to your hands. I made that mistake, so here I am struggling to take all the dough off. After about 5 to 10 minutes of kneading the dough and adding about 1/4 of a cup of more flour to both your hands and to the dough, it should start to come together into a rounded ball. Your dough is done and it shouldn't be sticky to the touch, and when you poke it, it should boing right back up. Place your kneaded dough in a greased bowl and set it in a place where it can rise for about an hour. This is how the dough looks when it's first put into the bowl, so we'll see how much it grows right after it has been rising for about an hour. I recommend putting a towel over it and then putting it in an unheated oven just to keep the temperature stable. It's been a little bit more than an hour and our dough has risen almost twice its original size. Take your dough out of your bowl and put it on a lightly floured surface, getting ready to roll it out. This is literally the most satisfying thing ever because the dough is so fluffy and you just get to pull it out and touch it. This is the part where you're supposed to use a rolling pin to flatten out your dough and make it to about the measurements of a 9 by 13 inch pan. But I'm just going to use my hands and do it because I'm not a fan of using rolling pins. If you do want to use a rolling pin, lightly flour it before you do so that it doesn't stick. The wooden board was not big enough, so I just had to switch to the countertop. This is how big your dough should probably be after you've rolled it out. The edges are about a ½ inch thick. Now to make our cinnamon sugar filling, you're going to need to put 1/4 of a cup of softened butter into a bowl. It's extremely important to make sure that the butter is softened, because if it is not, it's not going to be easy to spread. Add 2/3 of a cup of light brown sugar to the butter. Add the most important part to this recipe, 1 tablespoon of cinnamon. Now mix it all up until you get a smooth paste that can be easily spread on your dough. This is how smooth the butter, sugar, and cinnamon should be after you've mixed it. Spread the butter, sugar, cinnamon mixture evenly across all of your dough. So how I did this was I divided my dough into 3 sections and I just put 1 blob of the mixture on each part. Once you've divided it evenly between your 3 sections, start to spread it out. It should look pretty evenly spread once you're done. This is the part where you roll your dough. So you take one end and then you just roll it all the way to the other side, and it should be pretty tight. It's okay if some parts of the dough look a little bit bigger than the others. They'll all expand when baking and rising. Your dough should look like this once it has been rolled. So what I'm doing now is taking a knife and just making reference marks of where to cut. So just make a mark halfway and then quarter way and then 1/8 of the way. Doing this will give you 12 regular sized cinnamon rolls. Grease a 9 by 13 inch baking pan and keep it right next to you while you're cutting the dough. The easiest way to do this is to use dental floss and put it under your dough and make tying motions so that it cuts the dough right at your mark. It sounds really complicated, but it's not. You can just watch what I'm doing. Use the same motion to just cut all of your cinnamon rolls and one by one put them on your pan. For some weird reason, I ended up with an extra cinnamon roll, which is really weird because I remember precisely cutting 12 pieces. It's also an extremely fat one, so I had to make a lot of space for it. Now they're starting to look like actual cinnamon rolls. Unfortunately, they're not ready to bake yet. They have to rise for another hour, so put the damp washcloth over it and stick it back in an unheated oven or somewhere where the temperature is nice and warm. So here they are an hour later. and they have risen a lot, and they're almost ready to bake, but not quite yet. Take 2 tablespoons of melted butter and just spread it all over your cinnamon rolls wherever you like and how much ever you want. Make sure to target the top of the cinnamon rolls so that you can get them to be golden brown when they come out of the oven. I would recommend using a pastry brush for this, but I couldn't seem to find mine, so a spoon will do just fine. At last, they are ready to bake. While these are baking at 375 degrees for 15 to 20 minutes, we are going to start making our icing. Start by taking 2 tablespoons of melted butter and putting it into a mixing bowl. Add 1/4 of a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Add 3/4 of a cup of powdered sugar to the vanilla and butter. Mix it all up. Here's where you add 2 to 4 tablespoons of milk to make the icing more liquidy and easier to drizzle across the cinnamon rolls. 2 tablespoons wasn't enough, so I added 1 more. Once you're done, you can pour it into a smaller bowl and set it to the side so that it's ready for when the cinnamon rolls are done. Finally, after like 3 freaking hours, the cinnamon rolls are done. Slather all of your cinnamon rolls in this gooey icing, or you can sophisticatedly just drizzle it across, but I prefer to just randomly put it everywhere. If you have icing left over, don't be afraid to just dump it on the cinnamon rolls because you can never have too much sugar, am I right? After about 2.5 hours of making these, they are finally done and they smell so good and they look so good, so dig in. Unless you're going to finish this whole pan in one day, you should probably store it in an airtight container in the fridge for up to a week or in the freezer for up to 3 months. I hope you guys enjoy this recipe. It took me forever to make, and it also took me forever to edit this video. So just for that, you should like and subscribe and leave a comment down below of what you would like to see next. Bye, see you guys in my next video.